Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the monastery, the open bar of the internet, the world's greatest shit show, and the place where we, the good brothers and sisters of this most holy of temples, seek enlightenment through the drunkest, craziest, and most batshit ways possible. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me, I have a couple returning good brothers to the temple. Part of the multi-headed monster that is Dream Realm Storytellers. But now back once again after Echoes with Corpus Draconis, the Draconic Codex, the one and only two-man monster, or dragon, I suppose I should go with in this case, Alican and Ekin. I apologize if I did a mispronunciation again, because in my defense, it's been a while. How you two doing today?
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you. We are very well.
Thank you for coming on and braving time zone hell to come back to the temple. So, the last time I had you on for these sort of collections, it was for the Corpus duology. The book, the Codex of Good and Evil. And now you guys are back after Echoes with one that is dragon themed. So I suppose the first part I'd ask is, was it always the plan to eventually do one that was dragon themed, or is this an idea that came to you guys more recently?
Actually, I can answer this question like that. When we prepared the Corpus Malicious, the Codex of Evil first, we thought that there is not enough evil content for 5e. So why not we do it? And after doing that, people demanded a good codex, a counterpart of Corpus Malicious. Then we headed into Corpus Angelus.
Mm-hmm.
After that, we thought that we can discover universal forces one by one with Corpus series. And when one says universal force, dragons are one of the most top priorities that come to mind. So we said, why not? Dragons are glorious, frightening, powerful, magical. So let's go. Let's do Corpus Draconis.
Mm-hmm. I can certainly get that. And well, the game is called Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
So of course we would want that. Plus, I remember I'm not sure if you had it, but there was a book back in third edition called the Draconomicon. I think it also
Yeah.
I think a version of that also made an appearance in fourth.
Yes, Fizban's Treasury of Dragons.
Mm-hmm. Which I do.
Not in fifth. In fifth. I'm sorry. You said fourth. I said fifth.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's Fitzman's Treasury of Dragons, but in a lot of those cases, it's largely just statting out dragons. And I feel like when people say that they want a dragon-themed book, they want a lot more than just that. And I'm guessing that was something that was brought up, since there's a heavy amount of player-facing material that you guys have. And
Yes.
oh, go ahead.
In Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, there are lots of dragons. That book discovers many types of new dragons.
Mm-hmm.
But the book doesn't feel satisfying enough because there aren't enough player options in that book, and the dragons does not feel that powerful and magical and, let's say, glorious. So we wanted to rediscover those sides of dragons in Corpus Draconis.
That certainly makes sense. Now, to continue on with that, with Corpus Draconis, you are introducing two new Draconic classes. So I'd like to get into that and what those two new classes bring to the table.
So, one of the new classes, actually there are three now because we passed that stretch goal, so there are three new classes.
All right.
And so one of the classes is Worm Overlord. So Worm Overlord has a dragon companion, and that companion is not just a companion, it is one of the... So it is like you are playing two characters. One is the one that you created, and one is the dragon that you create. So you play with two characters, they both level up, you choose options for both of them. And as a single character that as two characters actually that shares the single soul, you level up together, you grow stronger together, and you play together. So the whole class is based on the combination and harmonies that is shared between these two characters, you and the dragon, you and the worm. And the other one is Dragonheart. Dragonheart is a dragon that is in the shape of a humanoid that can shapeshift into a dragon. As you level up, you discover your dragon powers, let's say. And again, as you level up, as you grow stronger, you become much more like a dragon. And the third one, the one that came with the stretch goal, it is the Scale Shaman. Scale Shaman is more like a religious person. Scale Shamans are the clergy of the Draconic philosophies, of Draconic religions. They guide people, they teach Draconic disciplines, Draconic teachings to people. So they are more like, let's say, clerics, but they will be much more different than clerics. They will have new mechanics, new shamanic totems, let's say draconic totems, and they will share powers through these draconic totems with other players, with other creatures.
All right, I can get that. Now, since you're also adding in 24 new archetypes, going to each one would be way too much of a time sink. So, what I'd like to do instead is I will list off one of the base classes, and you can tell me one archetype that is going to be associated with that class that's going to be in Corpus Draconis. If that works?
Yeah.
All right. So let's start off with the Barbarian.
Okay, my favorite.
So
I was choosing which archetype to talk about actually. So let's talk about Pet of the Drake Shaman. So, you know, when one says Barbarian, the rage powers, the powers that comes with rage, while raging, and these types of powers comes to mind first. But this Barbarian is a little different from them. This Barbarian does not head into battle raging. This Barbarian shows great wisdom. It has patience. It looks at the battlefield first and do things later, and do it with draconic wisdom. Pet of the Drake Shaman is a little spellcaster. It boosts their friends, and by conducting blood rituals, bone gambits, or summoning drake powers like Howling Drake, this barbarian boosts their friends and then rage and start cleaving their enemies. So the play style of this barbarian is a little bit different from the others, and I like that actually, because you know, being a barbarian has a shamanic side sometimes. The class mentions of that but never discovers those sides a lot. So we wanted to discover that with this archetype.
All right.
that is so true. I mean, I remember a section in Dragonlance, one of the first books of Dragonlance. There was this barbarian, and in 5th edition we see barbarians like I rage, I hit, I rage, I hit. But in that book, I really remember that they were actually tribal people who are trying to survive, who are warriors, warriors born fighting because they had to, because of their wilderness, because of the threats outside. So portraying barbarian just like the raging warrior is a little bit shallow in my mind, and that tribal side, that wisdom side is also actually really important for me since that book. And now Alican is making a section of that possible, so I really thank Alican for that actually.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that idea of a mindful barbarian.
Yeah, I can certainly get that. So next up would be the Bard.
Okay, with Bard, let's go with College of Dragon Skull. So, you know, in the ancient times of the universe, when gods shaped the planets, when they rose mountains, created seas, some sources tell that gods did those with godly songs, with divine songs, divine tunes. So a dragon casting spells in Corpus Draconis, we say, a dragon casting spells looks like that the dragon is singing a song, an ancient and powerful song. College of Dragon Skull discovers these songs, these divine, these powerful, these universal songs. So this archetype starts its career with discovering simple draconic words, and these words carry magical powers. And as this bard, as this skull grows in power, these simple words these simple words grow into whole songs. So, you know, let's give an example. You start with the word Solrun, which protects the bard from harm. It grows into Song of the Vanguard Dragon, which protects whole allies in the battlefield. And there are many words and many songs like that in this archetype.
All right, I can get that. So,
Can have an additional comment again about this. Sorry if I'm cutting you though.
no worries.
You see, it's mainly, of course, it's mainly for laugh and jokes, but I'm seeing a lot of bard jokes in, for example, Instagram reels and stuff, stories, and it's like the party is fighting and the bard is crying, but at the same time it's trying to play the musical instrument, but he's still crying and etc. So they portray this goofy bard where the party is, you know, fighting and bleeding etc, but the bard is there just witnessing the horrors. And actually I think that's because we see bards as like, okay, you sing a song sort of a thing, it's just inspiration etc. But this dragon song theme actually makes sense because songs can have divine or some magical values or magical powers within them. There are some fantasy books that actually experiment on this idea. One of them is Wheel of Time, of course, the People of the Leaf, and the other one is I forgot this bard person's adventures. The name of the wind I recall. So in those books there is this magical aspects of the song, and I think this bard archetype really makes that possible, and it turns bard into not into a goofy character, but rather into a seeker, a discoverer, or a seeker of the divine or magical art, which I think makes it more valuable in
Yeah.
my mind.
Yeah, the bard has gotten an unfortunate reputation over the years. Um, some of it due to in the early days trying to do multiple roles at once in a game that isn't really designed for it. Um, and then later on, the diplomancer thing became a um, became more prevalent, and that's where you start to get this whole thing of bards needing, not using because it's nice, but needing to have some sort of instrumentation. I don't know when that kind of thing took hold, but at some point it did. You know, focusing a lot on the troubadour kind of bard when that's just one aspect.
Yeah.
Especially since, from what I recall, one of the original inspirations for the bard was Norse skalds.
Yes.
But next on the list we have the cleric.
Okay. So let's talk about our scale domain. So this cleric not only worship dragon gods, but they worship all scaly creatures, you know, maybe hydras, maybe ancient serpents, dragons, drakes, primal drakes, worms, etc.
Without bubbles.
Yeah, why not? So this cleric finds some scales at the end of each long rest in their inventory, and these scales have magical powers. By giving these scales to other creatures, other party members, other friends, let's say, or spending these scales to power up themselves, the scale domain clerics enhances themselves or friends with magical draconic powers. And as they level up, these scales offer more options, offer more powers. And carrying scales hanging from their armor, giving them to others like necklaces, trinkets, etc. These scales protect others, these clerics protect others by using draconic scales.
Is it a case where they're going to have a certain number of scales per day, or is it something different?
Yeah. They receive scales equal to half of their cleric level, so it increases as they level up. And each power has a certain number of scales they spend, and powerful abilities scale more. It spend more scales, and it goes like that.
All right, I can get that. So next would be the druid.
So, you know, when you say druid, shape-shifting is the first thing that comes to mind. So, of course, we wrote a druid circle, circle of the drake, that can shape-shift into dragons. And they can shape-shift into powerful dragons. The challenge rating is a little bit higher. But to balance the things, we reduce the shape-shifting time, let's say, the shape-shifting duration. So you can, as a circle of the drake druid, you can shape-shift into a dragon in a turn, for a turn, and then change back into your normal form, cast a spell, then turn back for one round again, and it can go like that. And when you shapeshift into a dragon, that is the best part. You can use all of its abilities, and we we wrote really, really good dragons, dragon type creatures, and 10 new dragon types. So when we tried that archetypes, we saw that you can execute really good combos. They can conduct, they can fill many different roles with that druid. So it is really good. It is really enjoyable to play.
All right, I get you. So, next would be the one class that has also gotten maligned as being simple over the years, and that is the fighter.
Okay. So actually there was lots of ideas for fighters in our mind, and I can choose which one to tell right now. But let's talk about the Dragon Knight, the classic one, the one that all likes, and the one that we met with Dragonlance series. We mentioned Dragonlance a lot today, so, and it's a good thing actually. I like the series. I don't know you like what?
I do. I mean, I still have my copy of Dragonlance 5th Age, so that should say something at least.
Yeah. So with Dragon Knight archetype, you are a magical fighter. You discover Draconic magic. You can ride dragons. You know, the name is Dragon Knight actually. You can ride dragons. You can frighten your foes like the dragon's frightening presence. You can cast some spells to look like a draconic creature. You grow scales, you grow horns, and you grow in size, and maybe you breathe fire, and these draconic powers, draconic magic grows as you grow in power, and even in higher levels, your mere presence frighten your foes like you are a dragon. You are a frightening force of power in battlefield. Your allies are boosted, your enemies are hampered. So you are a pillar of draconic presence just by yourself.
Yeah, I can certainly get that. And next, of course, would be, well, my namesake, the monk.
Okay. So let me pick the one to talk about. So let's talk about Way of the Dragon Fury. So this is an aggressive monk. You know, monks are always, maybe not always, but most of the time they are peaceful, they are wise, they are cool-headed, etc. But for this monk archetype, you can think all the opposites of what we said about the barbarian archetype. So these monks are aggressive, they get into fight, they grow draconic claws, they grow draconic horns, they open a draconic form, which when you do that, a spectral draconic figure appears above you and moves with you, and they deal elemental damage types. They cut their enemies with their claws and rush into battle, cleave everyone, and then take a cool breath.
Since our adventure into the Wolf's Mouth in Swiland, if you remember, Alican,
Yeah.
You just love exploiting spirit guardians, man. You
Yes,
just love
yeah.
exploiting.
Yes, and this one does the same.
Yeah, I can certainly get that. So, with that in mind, I'd like to shift into the paladin.
Okay, so let's talk about out of the treasure warden, let's say. You know, in generally, paladins take their powers from gods, especially in the early versions of D&D. But in 5e, paladins get their powers from divine concepts, like Oath of the Crown, let's say. So, Oath of the Treasure Warden is one of the godless paladins. They can worship some gods, of course, but these paladins can take their power from powerful dragons, really, really powerful dragons as well. So, Oath of the Treasure Warden makes a paladin protect the hoard of a dragon, one of the most, maybe the most precious thing of a dragon. So they protect hoards, or they go adventuring to find new worthy additions to the hoard of a dragon. And you know, a dragon collects many gold, many magic items in their hoard. So it could be bad for a paladin to wear bad things, to wear, you know, common things, to use common items in their adventures while protecting a whole hoard. So these paladins can summon magic items or can summon expensive things from the horde, use them, and it is one of their tenets to never look bad. They always have to look valuable. They have to use valuable items. They always have to look expensive, you know. And these paladins really show off their items. So because it would bring bad comments to the horde of the dragon. So they use expensive items, they can summon magic items, they can gift magic items to their friends. So they are rich, basically. Long story short, these are rich paladins.
Alright. That's going to be an interesting approach. But next would be the ranger.
Yeah, so we have two different archetypes for ranger. One of them is the dragon slayer. So they hunt dragons. They are good at hunting dragons, and the other one is warden of dragons. So this one uses draconic powers. This one protects the dragons. So you know, rangers are. We wanted to show both sides of dragons for rangers. One hunting them, one protecting them. And these two rangers are like two rivals countering their each ability perfectly. So one uses draconic magic, so one counters draconic magic. One uses draconic powers, one invokes draconic powers, so the other one counters draconic powers. So they are like perfect rivals to each other.
All right. What about the rogue?
So for rogue, we have an horde thief. These rogues are specialized in stealing items from dragons, and they have many abilities that is suitable for entering layers, stealing items, and getting out of the layer without being burned by the dragon. So these rogues are perfect thieves, let's say. They can, so a rogue that can enter a dragon's lair and get out of that lair without slaying the dragon and stealing some magic items can get in many places. So this is the perfect thief.
I can get that. And then we get to the main spellcasters, starting with the sorcerer.
Yeah. So for sorcerer, warlock, and wizard, I can really say that these players can use really different magical abilities because we have a new mechanic called Dracomancy. And in Dracomancy, Dracomancy discovers how dragons cast magic. And you know, in 5e dragons can't really cast that much spells. But when we thought about this project first, we said ourselves this shouldn't be like that, because dragons are magical creatures by themselves, and in every legend, in every tale, a dragon casts powerful spell. So we added a new mechanic called Dracomancy, that every dragon can be turned into a spellcaster with a just little few adjustments. And our spellcasters discover these Dracomancy, this new mechanic. So Dragon Eater, Sorcerer, Dragon Eater can start casting spells by eating other dragons' hearts. So you know, generally, a sorcerer's powers carried by blood or being exposed to other magical powers. But Dragon Eater becomes a sorcerer by eating the heart of a dragon. So this comes with Dracomancy as well. And let's this is not the next one I know, but School of Dracomancy Wizard studies and learns Dracomancy by this way. And Dracomancy is the magical art of invoking arcane powers by combining several draconic words. Normally, this art is designed for dragons, and when another mortal conducts this art, it takes its toll. It is too burdenful for the mortal. But with these archetypes, with Dracomancy and Dragon Eater, these tolls are lessened. They learn secret methods to conduct Dracomancy without being harmed that much. They can conduct Dracomancy like dragons. And the last one for Warlock, I think. Let's talk about the eldest archetype. So the eldest is the eldest dragon, the oldest, the eldest, and the most mighty of all the dragon kind. You make a pact with this creature, whatever it is, and this creature gives you the boons of a secret known by only a few dragons, and this secret is called the Everflame. Everflame is a special, unique draconic flame. It can harm and heal at the same time. And as a warlock of the eldest, you know the existence of Everflame, and you can use it. You can use it to burn down cities, or you can use it to revive your allies, and discover new methods of using Everflame as you grow up in level.
Yeah,
I haven't checked the warlock, that warlock archetype, Alican. Can you make your Eldritch Blast with Everflame? Can you enhance it with that?
Yes, you can not only enhance it, but only breath it as a cone like a dragon.
That's so nice. I'm playing it in the next session we are.
Yeah. So with that in mind, so one of the things I was a bit curious about is the notion of what you're referring to as draconic spells. Is that just spells with a draconic leaning, or is that where the concept of Dracomancy makes its appearance?
So, okay, let's talk about Dracomancy a little more. So for Dracomancy, we have listed all the components of spells. You know, a spell has many different components, like its shape, its target, its range, duration, casting time, etc., damage type, spell school, etc., right? So we have listed all of these, and we gave draconic words for all of them as well. And by combining these different words, you cast a spell. And you can not only cast a known spell, you know, I don't know, fireball, let's say, the first spell that comes to mind. You want to cast a fireball, then you can combine the words of evocation, you know, third level, and area, damage type, fire, duration, instantaneous. You combine all of them, and you cast a spell. Okay, you cast fireball by adding all of these words between each other, saying them, and you cast a fireball. But with this spell, with this Dracomancy, with this new mechanic, you can not only cast existing spells, but also you can discover new spells as well. You just create magical effects, and you create them by taking existing spells as guidelines. So you can change a fireball's damage type. You can cast it as a line, as a cone. You can target only one creature with it, and you do it. You can do all of it with Dracomancy.
Alright, I can certainly get that. So, with that in mind, when it comes to the cults that you're putting in, the 5 cults and organizations that are going to be in the core book, barring any stretch goals, what would be an example of one of them that you could give me a summary on?
So, first of all, I have to state that the things that we are writing right now can change at any moment after the playtests. So these are not the final forms. First of all, let me state. So we have written a new Draconic Pantheon. We have written new Draconic gods for this book, because we felt that there aren't many around, and there are cults that worship these Draconic gods. They are trying to rekindle their flames. They are trying to spread their teachings, and one of them, especially one of them, is tied to our new species, new heritages as well. So we have a new heritage called Saterax, and these are draconic creatures born from stolen eggs. So when you get into a dragon's lair, you know, there are many magic items, gold, jewelries, precious gems, etc. But there can be also eggs as well. So imagine that you are one of these eggs. You are stolen and sold to, I don't know, an occultist, a magic item enthusiast, in return of a lot of money. And that enthusiast waited until you hatch, and then experimented on you, or sold you again. And at the end, you have become a draconic creature without noticing your true glory, true heritage. When you discover what you have been, and when you see what you are now, you start adventuring to discover your true heritage, to retake what is yours. And Satarax is a failed dragonborn, let's say.
Alright.
This is the perfect explanation, I think.
Mhm.
And there is a god called Satarai, and from Satarai comes the name Satarax. You Satarai is the goddess of all Satarax, and there is a cult that is whose members are trying to find other Satarax so that they can discover their heritages earlier without experiencing all that pain and loss.
Mhm. I can certainly get that. Now, you also talk about adding in horde mechanics, and since a dragon's horde is a crucial part of that fantasy, for lack of a better term, that's something I'd like to get into.
Okay, so you mentioned the Draconomicon at the beginning of the podcast.
Yep.
So in Draconomicon, if you remember, there are dragons and there are whole lists of their hordes. So when you slay this dragon, you can get all these items. There are pages long lists of items and golds and potions and scrolls and etc. So we wanted to bring this back, and we are going to write these. We are going to write a lot of these long lists of items, hordes, and we are also going to write a new mechanic that the GMs can use to shape their own hordes. So that when players slay a dragon, a GM can pull out all the horde at once and can say, okay, this is yours. These 2 pages long horde is completely yours. Now you can form a kingdom from start. You can build your own village or castle or etc.
I can get that.
Another aspect of layers and hordes is that we see in 5th edition we see layers as the house of the boss, of course, whatever that boss is, a creature. It has layer actions, etc. But it is an area that has to be conquered. But in another perspective, layers are where the dragons sleep, where the dragons stay. It's their home, and not all dragons need to be enemies or the evil against a good party. There are, for example, silver dragons, gold dragons, etc. So the layers also will show some aspects of their living, their livery. What do they do? What is their home like? Those aspects also will be in the book. So that's another perspective that the players will discover.
So the other thing that I definitely wanted to get into is dragon mounted combat, which is an interesting challenge, especially since mounted combat has been one of those things that's been attempted over the years, but it's always been kind of hit and miss depending on the game in question.
So,
well, sorry, Alican, but when it's an NPC, it is rather easy actually. I remember some time ago, it was last year, I guess. Alican, correct me if I'm wrong. We, as a party, tried to tackle down a dragon knight in Dragonland setting with a dragon under him.
Yeah.
And we got beaten up so bad, but we managed to remember. So Alican makes good use of it. I don't know how he can do that, but he makes it work.
Thank you. So we are actually working on dragon mounted combat, but not all of its details are written right now, but we are trying to design a new mechanic that can make the dragon-mounted combat feel like an action movie. You know, we wanted to write it as a dynamic system. So you should use some maneuvers, and that maneuvers must have a meaning in the game, mechanic-wise and narrative-wise. So it will not be only that. You can ride a dragon with this DC. When this happens, you can make this check, and if it fails, you fall off the dragon, etc. It won't be like that. It will be a dynamic mechanic with many feat-like maneuvers, feat-like uses, and it will be a usable mechanic. I will use it in my own games, and I am writing all of the content, not just this one, but all of the content like that. I am going to use this in my own games, so I have to design it good and well, and I don't know, maybe this is the thing that makes our content wholesome. I don't know, but we are trying to do that. We are trying to write mechanics, things, archetypes that we can use in our games.
Yeah, I can certainly get that. Now, with that in mind, it's not uncommon for you guys to do these kind of things in pairs, and in this particular case, you're having the Corpus Draconis book, but also an additional book called Layers and Hordes. And yeah. I'm guessing a lot of the horde mechanics are going to be in that book, that second book, in this particular pairing.
Yeah.
All right. So shifting from that, one of the bigger ones I'd like to get into, as far as mechanics, is dragon binding. Since you brought it up on the Kickstarter. So how exactly does that work on the player and the GM side of things?
So, dragon binding is the art of summoning dragons, actually, in its simplest form. So that we wanted to let players summon dragons, but this will require a lot of things. It is not an easy thing, first of all. But when we also wanted that when the players succeeds at summoning a dragon, we wanted them to create their own dragons according to their own needs at that time. So for that, we are designing a new system that they have some pool of points they can spend on the features of the dragon that they are summoning, and the amount of points they are going to have will change depending on the components they are going to spend on the summoning ritual. So they will summon a hybrid dragon, let's say hybrid dragon creation. They will summon a hybrid dragon shaped depending on the players' their own needs at that time.
I can certainly get that. Now, with all that in mind, what for each of the individual books, what would you be shooting for as far as their page count?
Ekin, can you say that?
What would you be shooting for the page count for Corpus Draconis and for Layers and Hordes?
Well, we are hoping to have 250 pages for Draconis and 100 pages for Layers and Hordes, but we never managed to do that. I mean, it's so hard for us to write in a limit, so I guess it will be higher than that.
Yeah.
I will have secret quotes from our printer in case we overgo our page limits, as usual. So yeah, expect more than that, I can say.
Yeah. And part of the reason why I always have that as a kind of ballpark is I know that stretch goals can make things interesting. And since you guys have already crossed over a couple thresholds, since this got funded in like 12 minutes, that kind of thing is certainly inevitable. But as far as a release window, what would you guys be shooting for? I know it says May 2025, but I know that a estimated date has to be put in when doing a Kickstarter.
Well, we are getting better at meeting the deadlines, especially with stretch goals. I mean, stretch goals are the main surprise always. We plan the books and plan the writing so rigorously and so accurately at first, but then when the stretch goals kick in, we find ourselves getting late because of fulfilling the stretch goals needs. We are working on it. We are working on making stretch goals faster, fulfilling them faster, and since much of the content for Draconis is already written, I can say that the stretch goals won't make it later.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we will be able to meet our deadlines on that we have provided on the Kickstarter page. But of course, there's also this surprise of our printer. He is making excellent quality books. Our backers are always at first sometimes a little bit disappointed that things are getting late, but then when they receive the books, this happened on Bloodpunk recently, they are fascinated by the quality.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we even had one or two backers who were like, I'm sorry I told bad things about this. This quality is great. I mean, I don't care if it's late or not. I really like this. I'm sorry about those words before, kind of things. But anyways, our printer sometimes, even though he's printing them in great quality, sometimes our projections of the printing time does not meet the reality. This happened on Bloodpunk. This happened on Silverplate. So there is that surprise.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we will be accurate. I mean, with this project, I'm really hopeful and 80% certain that we will meet those delivery times, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can certainly get that. Well, with that said, I do want to sincerely thank both of you for taking the time out of your schedule to come all the way to my temple and enjoy the madness that happens around here.
It is always a pleasure.
Yes.
And anytime you see fit to return, the door is always open. As I often say around here, drinking is not mandatory, but it is encouraged. And, of course, a sincere thanks goes out to everyone who took the time out of their schedule to come onto the show and enjoy the madness. And there'll be plenty more where that came from, as there always is here, on the open bar of the internet. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra, I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody!
Them